Have you studied this chapter? Why not? You read. What about you? Next. Read. Why don't you do it? What's the problem? Huh? Every day? Okay, fine guys. So, in this chapter we will study about different kinds of diseases caused by microorganisms, okay, and we focus on immunity and end the chapter with different drugs and their effects, alright. Now, the very first thing here that we need to understand, what is the definition of health? What is it guys? Can someone tell me? What is the definition? Can you see here? The state of complete physical, mental and social and psychological well-being is called as health. In the beginning you see there was something called as good humor hypothesis arrived at by reflective thought and asserted by Hippocrates along with Indian Ayurveda system. So, good humor, you see, what does it mean here? According to good humor hypothesis, health is a state of body and mind where there was a balance of certain humors. Humors means here, according to them, the humors are the things which maintain the health, and the balance of these humors keeps a person healthy, right? You see here. But this hypothesis was disproved by William Harvey, who discovered the blood circulation experimentally. He said that he disproved the good human hypothesis of health by demonstrating the normal body temperature in persons with black bile using thermometer. So, according to him, according to good humor hypothesis, a person with the disease black bile belongs to a hot personality and they have fevers. But it is wrong, what do you say, according to William Harvey. Okay, the simple points here. Now, you see guys, these are the factors which affect our health. What are those things? Mental state, genetic disorders, infections and lifestyle, that includes habits, rest as well as the exercise. Healthy conditions may increase the productivity, the longevity, bring economic prosperity, and if the person's health decrease, it will increase the infant and maternal mortality. Okay? Again, you see, there are two words which you need to understand. One is a disease, other one is disorder. What is the difference between a disease and a disorder? Really? Okay. And disorder? Can AIDS be cured? Then?
Disorder is like from genes.
Not exactly the genes. We can say disease is the one which is caused by an external agent, like a microorganism, right? A disorder is something which resulted because of malfunctioning of an organ. For example, diabetes mellitus is a disorder. Is it caused by a microorganism? No. It is caused by the hyposecretion of the hormone called as insulin. Okay? So, anything that causes malfunction of an organ causes a disorder, right? Now, here you see, disease, it is a state of the body when functioning of one or more organs or organ systems are affected, characterized by various signs and symptoms. Now, what are the signs of typhoid? Signs or symptoms of typhoid or cold or pneumonia, headaches, fever, constipation, right guys? Right? So, what are the symptoms of a diabetes? The sugar disease, polyuria, right? Glycosuria, ketonuria. So, these are the symptoms of diabetes mellitus. And a disease can be of two types, non-infectious and infectious. Non-infectious means it cannot be transmitted from one person to the other. An example is cancer. Infectious is the one which can be transmitted from one person to the other. An example here is AIDS. And the disease causing microorganisms are generally referred to as pathogens. and most parasites are pathogens. That means living in or on the host multiply and interfere with the normal vital activities, resulting in morphological and functional changes. So, what happens when a HIV infects the humans? The human immunovirus, what happens to us? Okay, that is fine. So, they go through reverse transcription and they produce the DNA molecules, and fine, that is fine, but the symptoms I am asking. It affects our immune system, right? It weakens our immune system, which will be compromised, and our body is susceptible to many kinds of diseases. So, here this is the name is, you see, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. So, our immune system becomes deficient because they attack our blood cells, right? Now, so for example, there are some pathogens which can survive harsh pH and also the digestive enzymes. So, these are the problematic which cause several diseases. Now, you see, so these are the several diseases mentioned in the textbook. Let us say we have bacterial, viral, protozoan and helminthic diseases. Let us say the bacterial diseases. Two examples are given. One is a pneumonia, other one is a diphtheria. And these two bacterial infections are transmitted through air or airborne objects like pens and knobs. And the next one, the tetanus is caused due to direct contact with the infected person, and contaminated food and water transmit the bacterial infections like typhoid and dysentery. Insect vector means some insects, they act as a vectors and transmit the infections, and the example is a plague. And next one, through the body fluids. So, this is syphilis, an example of sexually transmitted diseases. And coming to the viral infections, what are those two guys? Common cold and smallpox. Smallpox is transmitted through direct contact, whereas common cold and smallpox are transmitted through air. Polio, and next one we have the chikungunya and dengue, which are transmitted through the mosquitoes. AIDS is transmitted through sexual intercourse, or you can say through mother to placenta or through the blood transfusion. So, various transmission modes are there for the AIDS. Now, coming to the protozoan, we have amoebiasis, malaria and trichomoniasis. For helminthic diseases, we have two of them. One is ascariasis, the other one is a filariasis. Okay, you have to go through these things here there. Now, you see. So, these are the measures that we can prevent, that we can use to prevent the spread of infections. General things, first one is personal hygiene, second one is public hygiene. What is the difference these two things here? Personal hygiene means you have to take care of your body yourself, like keeping the body clean, consumption of clean drinking water, food and vegetables and fruits. Public hygiene, proper disposal of waste and excreta, periodic cleaning and disinfection of water reservoirs, pools, cesspools and tanks, decontamination of the drinking water. Now, coming to avoiding the close contact with the infected persons. I think you know how to do it. And then controlling the vectors which transmit the infections. How can we do it, guys? First one, avoid stagnation of water in and around the residential areas, which can prevent the mosquitoes to lay their eggs. Second, regular cleaning of household coolers or anything that store the water. Use of mosquito nets, and the most important part here is using a fish called as the gambusia. What is this? What is the use of this gambusia in lakes, guys? They feed on the mosquito larvae. And spraying of insecticides in ditches, drainage areas and swamps, doors and windows should be provided with a wire mesh. So, simply we can do is anything that you can do to prevent the mosquitoes entering into our households. Simple point, right? Now, so here certain things are given. For example, balanced diet, yoga and regular exercise, personal hygiene, awareness about diseases and vaccination are very important to maintain good health. Use of vaccines and immunization programs have enabled us to completely eradicate a deadly disease like smallpox. It used to be, what to say, a major disease few decades ago. But once the vaccination has been administered to all the children, we were successful in eradicating this disease from India, we can say. I mean, it has been eradicated from most parts of the world because of one vaccine. Next, large number of infectious diseases like polio, diphtheria, pneumonia and tetanus have been controlled to a large extent by the use of vaccines. Biotechnology is at the verge of making available newer and safer vaccines. I think you heard about something called recombinant vaccines, right? Then, discovery of antibiotics and various drugs have enabled us to effectively treat infections. Okay? So, these are the measures that we can be used to stop the infections. Now, here some description of the diseases. Typhoid. What is the pathogen called as, guys? Salmonella typhi. What is the diagnostic test to use to detect the typhoid? It is called as the Vidal test. What are the organs infected? Affected, you can say small intestine and other organs by migrating through the blood. So, they can say the first organ to be infected is a small intestine. What are the symptoms? Sustained high fever with a temperature of 13 to 39 to 40 degrees centigrade, stomach pain, weakness, constipation, headache and loss of appetite. In severe cases, if it is not treated on a regular basis, intestinal perforation and death may occur. What is meant by the word intestinal perforation? Intestinal perforation. Yes, this, because of the reactions of all these infectious microorganisms, they can cause small pores in the intestine, which causes the leakage of the materials present in the intestine and infecting the whole abdominal cavity. Okay? So, that leads to, as you guys here, death if it is not treated. And next you see pneumonia is caused by two common pathogens. One is a Streptococcus pneumoniae, the other one is a Haemophilus influenzae. What is the affected organ here? Alveoli of the lungs. And the symptoms include problem in respiration due to fluid filled alveoli. So, this is like a defensive mechanism in the lungs which increase the fluid content in the alveoli, means it makes it difficult to breathe. So, these fluids are trying to, let us say, kill the bacteria, but due to those things what happens, the respiratory surface becomes affected and we can't able to breathe properly. And then because of these reasons, the person will suffer from fever, chills, cough and headache. In severe cases, lips and finger nails turn grey to bluish. Now, can someone tell me why lips and fingernails turn grey to bluish? Anyone? Yes? Very good. It is because of the lack of oxygen, because the lungs are not functioning effectively and the blood is not being oxygenated. So, as the deoxygenated blood becomes slowly accumulated, the lips and fingernails are highly vascular and they appear grey to bluish in color. Okay? Now, that's bacterial. Now, coming to typhoid. Okay. So, here protozoan diseases, two of them are mentioned. One is amoebiasis, also called as the amoebic dysentery. What is the pathogen? Entamoeba histolytica. Affected areas of the large intestine. Symptoms include constipation, abdominal pain, cramps and stool with excess mucus and the blood clots. Malaria is caused by three different Plasmodium species, that is Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium malariae and Plasmodium falciparum. The most common affected parts of our body are the RBC. The symptoms: chills, high fever recurring every 3 to 4 days as they are shifting from one RBC to the other RBC and from liver to the, the actual shift between liver and RBC. Okay. So, because of this migration, the fever occurs every 3 to 4 days. If not treated, it can become fatal. Now, this is the life cycle of the Plasmodium. So, what happens here guys? Simple. First thing, when a vector carrying the microorganism which causes the disease bites the human. So, when an infected mosquito bites another human, the larvae of this Plasmodium called as sporozoites enter the bloodstream. So, if the most common question asked in here is what is the infective stage of Plasmodium that affects the humans? What is it called as? Sporozoites. And once they enter, these sporozoites reach the liver through the blood. In the blood, the parasite reproduce asexually in the liver cells and they burst the cell and releasing into the blood. So, the sporozoites from the blood reaches the liver. In the liver, they will multiply asexually, burst open the cells and then enter into the blood. In the blood, they reproduce again asexually in the RBC. So, they burst the red blood cells again, causing the cycles of fever and other symptoms, and they release here, infect new blood cells. At the same time, here they produce a toxin which is called as a hemozoin. So, this hemozoin is responsible for the fevers, and from here these RBC, inside the RBC they form two types of cells called as the gametocytes, the male and female gametocytes, which are the infective stage for the female Anopheles. So, why they are again going back to, you see guys, the life cycle of the Plasmodium is involving two different hosts, the mosquito and the human, right. And here what happens is, in humans they cannot complete their life cycle. The reason for this is, for the fertilization to take place, they need an optimum temperature and pH, which is not available in the human's body. Once these gametocytes are formed, they enter into the blood circulation, usually in the upper blood vessels, superficial blood vessels. When the mosquito bites the infected human, these gametocytes enter the mosquito's gut, and where the gametocytes they fertilize to form the, what is it called guys? What are they? Sporozoites. So, important point here that you have to remember is, one is what is the infective stage of humans? What is it? Sporozoites. What is the infective stage to the mosquitoes? They call as the female and male gametocytes. 2 points. And third point, why the mosquito cannot complete its life cycle in the humans is, there is no optimum or suitable temperature and pH in the human body. So, they have to go back to the mosquito. Clear about this one, right? And then see, it's mentioned here, rupturing of RBC releases the toxic substance called as hemozoin, responsible for the symptoms of disease. Clear? Now, that is about the Plasmodium. Now, coming to here, the helminthic disease, two of them. One is the ascariasis caused by Ascaris lumbricoides, which is also known as the roundworm, and the organ affected here is the intestine, where it causes intestinal bleeding, fever, muscular pain, anemia and blockage of the intestinal passage. And second helminthic disease is called as the elephantiasis or filariasis, which is caused by two helminths. One is called as Wuchereria bancrofti, other one is the Wuchereria malai, and they are also commonly called as the filarial worms. The affected organs of this disease are the lymphatic vessels. Symptoms include chronic inflammation of organs in which they live for many years and resulting in gross deformities like in the limbs and genital organs. You can see here the person's leg is swollen because of the blockage in the lymphatic vessels, also the testis also enlarged. That is nothing but the deformities of the limbs and genital organs. Next one, the fungal disease. So, the ringworm is caused by Microsporum trichophyton and epidermophyton genus. The body parts affected are skin, nails and scalp. Symptoms include dry, scaly lesions and intense itching. The most favorable place you see guys, heat and moisture makes the fungi thrive in skin folds such as groin and between toes, heat and moisture, which is acquired from soil or belongings of infected individuals such as towels, combs and clothes. I mean, is this infectious or non-infectious? Infectious, which can be transmitted from one person to the other by usage of the contaminated articles. Clear about this one, right? Now, okay. So, next two diseases here, one is AIDS, other one is cancer. Now, AIDS full form, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. The first reported case of AIDS was in 1981 and since then it killed approximately 25 million people in the last 25 years. It is deficiency of immune system acquired through the lifetime of an individual. So, the virus which infects, which causes AIDS literally destroys our immune system. As the immune system becomes deficient and which we acquire during our lifetime, the name of the disease is acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Now, the new word here, what is a syndrome? A disease, a disorder, and third word here is a syndrome. What is it? What is a syndrome? Anybody? What is a syndrome, guys? Is it a combination of diseases? Or is it a disease that leads to disorder? A disease which causes disorder. So, AIDS in the beginning is a disease caused by virus which infects the WBC of our immune system, right? Now, so the causative agent of AIDS is a virus which is human immunodeficiency virus. A simple structure of this virus is a protein coat surrounding the RNA genome, and it is transmitted by sexual contact or through placenta, that is mothers to the fetus, blood transfusion or infected needles, syringes, anything that is touched or touch the blood of the infected person. Next, the high risk individuals are those who has multiple sexual partners, mother to fetus, repeated blood transfusion, also the drug addicts. And the virus enter into the body cells. What are those guys? Macrophages and a special type of lymphocytes called as the helper T cells. Once inside, this is, imagine the human cell here. The virus attaches with the plasma membrane and injects its viral RNA into the nucleus. You see guys here. Once the RNA enters here, this viral RNA goes through a reverse transcription to produce its DNA. You see here. Now, viral DNA is produced by reverse transcriptase, hence they are called as the retroviruses. So, generally DNA to RNA, which is called as the transcription, but here it is RNA to DNA, which is called as the reverse transcription. Now, the viral DNA produced by this process incorporates into the host genome, and it takes the control of the host genome and produces a new viral RNA molecules, and these viral RNA molecules are packed inside the protein coat and forming new viral particles, and these viral particles, they burst open these cells and released into the bloodstream, infecting new cells. And this process continues. See here, same process, and then as the initial symptoms include the bouts of fever, diarrhea and the weight loss. Slowly, the immunodeficient patient becomes prone to infections, especially Mycobacterium, which causes tuberculosis, different types of viruses, fungi, and also toxoplasma, which causes toxoplasmosis. So, what is happening here? Macrophages and helper T cells are the most important cells which defend us from against microorganisms. If their number comes down, our immune system becomes compromised, and we are susceptible to many kinds of diseases. Now, this is the problem. There is a time lag. There is a time lag between infection and appearance of AIDS symptoms. So, it is not that the virus enters the body and the symptoms are shown immediately. There is an incubation period which may take from months to many years, and sometimes even from 5 to 5 years. It takes longer time. Next, the diagnostic test for AIDS is ELISA, which is called as the enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. Why are you late, guys? 9 o'clock is the class. Boys, you came at 9:20, 9:25. Huh? What? Why don't you start early then? What about you guys? Huh? You think we flew here? Which bridge? Huh? You're coming from that side. That will go for 1 month. They mentioned it takes 1 month to repair it. Huh? No, it will take 1 month to repair. So every day will be same then. You have to start early. I am also coming from the same area, guys. Okay, now next one. Cancer, the most dreaded disease. A dreaded non-infectious disease, major cause of death all across the globe. Now, you see, guys, how do I say? Okay. Generally, every cell which divides, its division is highly controlled. Means if 10 cells are required, the division forms only 10 cells. Means the cell growth and differentiation is properly controlled and regulated. In case of cancer cells, that regulation which controls the cell division will be lost. Simple, uncontrolled and non-regulated in the cancerous cells. There is something called as contact inhibition in the normal cells. So, for example, let us say, guys, for example, 10 cells are lost, new 10 cells will form. When new 10 cells are formed, they attach with each other. I mean, they are in contact with each other. When they knew that there is a one more cell next to me, they will stop dividing, because they know that the space has been filled. In case of cancer cells, this ability called as the contact inhibition is lost. Are you following my point here? Right? So, this is lost. So, these cells keep on dividing and form a mass of cells called as a tumor or the neoplasm. Right? Let's see. There are two types of tumors, benign and malignant, which is called as the cancer. Benign tumors are those which are restricted to one place. They do not spread. They are not a problem. They cause very little damage. As they do not spread, they do not have the ability of metastasis. Metastasis means spreading from one location to the another location. In malignant tumors, which grow rapidly and spread to other parts, they invade and damage other cells, starving normal cells by competing for vital nutrients. As these tumors, these cells keep on dividing uncontrollably, they use the nutrients which are actually for the neighboring cells. And the neighboring cells, they lose the nutrients, I mean they do not get the nutrients, and they will start dying, because these numbers are increasing. And they do spread, and some tumors, and from some tumors the cells are removed or sloughed from such tumors, reach the distant sites through the blood and start a new tumor called as a metastasis. So, some tumors are restricted to one place. Some tumors can spread from one place to the another place. Thus, the spreading is called as a metastasis. Now, see here how a normal cell is transformed into a cancerous cell. Simple process. Every cell in our body contains some specialized genes called as the oncogenes, or you can call them as the proto-oncogenes or the cellular oncogenes. Now, because of some carcinogenic chemicals, these genes gets activated. So, those chemicals are called as the carcinogens, and the normal cells, by the activation of these proto-oncogenes, they will transform into cancerous cells. Get my point here? All of our cells have the inactive cancerous genes called as the proto-oncogenes, and these proto-oncogenes are activated by the carcinogens, which transform the normal cell into a cancerous cell. So, this transformation is called as a neoplastic transformation. Then, so these are the different techniques used to identify. You see guys, before that let us see what are the different types of carcinogens. Now, first one we have ionizing radiations like X-rays and gamma rays, non-ionizing radiations like UV rays, physical agents, chemical agents like tobacco in the smoke. Biological agents include the oncogenic viruses which carry the viral oncogenes. Next, the diagnosis detection, that is early detection is allow the disease to be treated successfully in many cases. So, every cancer is divided into several stages. If they are in the initial stages, it will be easier to cure, and we will find the cancer initial stages if we go for regular checkups. So, sometimes we cannot detect the cancer until it is too late. Are you getting my point here? Correct? Now, you see. So, these are the different techniques. We have the biopsy, like detecting the, taking some cells from the body and finding out if they are suffering from the oncogenic transformation. We can find the change in the tissues. Next, we can perform the blood and bone marrow test, where we can count the cells. If the number of cells are increasing in the WBC count, we can say there might be some problem. The blood cancers are generally called as leukemias. Leukocytes, RBC do not divide because you do not have the nucleus. When we say leukemia, it is concerned with the increase in the numbers of the WBC. Radiography, we can use the X-rays, where we can find the cancer of the internal organs. And next, CT scan or the computed tomography, where we use the X-rays to get the 3D image of the internal organs. Then MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, where we use a strong magnetic fields and the non-ionizing radiation such as the UV light to find or detect the pathological and physiological changes in the living tissue. Pathological means if the cell is damaged or going through any transformation, okay, all these things can be found out by the MRI. And the next one here is the molecular techniques. We can identify the genes which are responsible, or maybe in the future this will be transformed into the oncogenes. And we can also use the antibodies against a specific cancer antigens, which can be used to detect certain cancers here. Okay? So, remember, these are the methods which can be used to diagnose the cancer. And then here, tumors or tumor cells have the ability to avoid detection and destruction by the immune system, because the cells are almost similar to our own cells. So, our immune system can sometimes fail to identify them as a foreign cells. And there are several treatments suggested here. One is surgery, where we can simply remove the tumors; radiotherapy, where the tumor cells are irradiated lethally, that can kill them. Next, chemotherapy using some chemicals, which may have some effects like the hair loss, right? Anemia. What is anemia? Lack of blood? No, lack of iron. Okay? Then immunotherapy. We can use alpha interferons, special chemicals produced by viral infected cells. So, these interferons can stop the what do you say, the virus spreading if it is caused by a virus. Now, prevention. Okay, this is for the HIV, fine. Okay, you can learn about this, these simple points. Now, coming to the next part here. Immunity. The ability of the host to fight the disease causing organisms conferred by the immune system is called as immunity. So, you can say simply the defense system of our body is called as the immunity, which is of two types, innate immunity and acquired immunity. What is innate immunity? The immunity that we have or that we are born with, and acquired immunity is the one which we receive after the birth. See, for example, here, do we need to develop this immunity by being infected by something? No, we do not need it because we are born with it. But acquired immunity is the one which we develop once we are infected with a particular disease. And then that immunity, that innate immunity is accomplished by providing different types of barriers to the entry of the foreign agents. That include, you see guys, we have physical barriers, physiological, cellular and chemicals called as the cytokines. So, these four barriers are the major, they play the major roles in providing innate immunity. The first one, physical barriers. Our skin itself is a major barrier that prevents the entry of the microorganisms, and the mucous coating of the epithelium lining the respiratory, GIT and the urogenital tracts. They trap the microorganisms and expel them from those organs. The basic function, they prevent the entry and they trap the microorganisms. In the physiological, the saliva in the mouth, the acid in the stomach, tears from eyes. So, acid in the stomach is HCl with a pH of less than 2. And these two body fluids, saliva and tears, they contain an enzyme called as the lysozyme, which is it may be a weak, but it is a very good antibacterial enzyme. And then it prevents the microbial growth. These enzymes, they can prevent the microbial growth by destroying their cell walls. And cellular barrier, which includes different types of WBC. The neutrophils, also called as the polymorphonuclear lymphocytes, the monocytes, macrophages, natural killer cells, which are the type of lymphocytes, and they perform phagocytosis and they destroy the microorganisms. I think I told you what is phagocytosis before, right? What is phagocytosis? What is it? It's literally the WBC eating the foreign microorganisms. It's called as phagocytosis. Now, we have the cytokine chemicals, examples, interferons produced by the virus infected cells that protect the non-infected cells from the virus. I mean, it's like if one cell is infected by virus, they release the signal chemicals which are called as interferons. So, these chemicals, they warn the neighboring cells that a virus has come here, it might infect you as well, so be prepared. So, those chemicals are called as the interferons, right. Now, the acquired immunity, the one that we receive or acquire during our lifetime. The human immune system consists of lymphoid organs like spleen, bone marrow, okay, tissues, cells and soluble molecules like the antibodies. This response is carried by two special types of lymphocytes present in our blood. One is called as the B lymphocytes, the other one is called as the T lymphocytes. You see guys, we have two types of lymphoid organs, the primary and the secondary. Primary includes thymus and the bone marrow. What is the function, you see guys? Bone marrow synthesizes all the blood cells, and in the thymus these lymphocytes will migrate and they will mature, both T cells and B cells, and from there they move to secondary lymphoid organs like spleen, lymph nodes, tonsils, appendix, mucosa associated lymphoid tissue called as the MALT, and the Peyer's patches found in the intestine. So, in here In the second lymphoid organs, the T cells produce a mechanism called the T cells mediated response, which help the B cells to produce the antibodies. So, T cells activate the B cells to produce the antibodies. B cells also called as the plasma cells. Their function is to produce different types of antibodies, which are nothing but called as the immunoglobulins. And these B lymphocytes, you see guys, T lymphocytes provide cell mediated immune response like performing phagocytosis or presenting the antigens, and the B cells, they produce humoral immune response, also called as the antibody mediated immune response, because they produce the antibodies which looks something like this. A typical antibody is shown here, which shows, you see guys, each antibody is made up of 4 polypeptide chains known as the L2H2 or H2L2, heavy chains and light chains. And there are 2 long heavy chains and 2 short light chains, and they are called as the immunoglobulins. Examples include IgA, IgM, IgE and IgG. One more is there, IgD. You can say IgA, IgD, IgE, IgG and IgM. So, these are the 5 major types of antibodies. They differ very slightly in their structure and they have different functions. Then you see, where are we? And there are 2 types of immune response. One is called as the primary and second one is the secondary or anamnestic. The primary is the one when the first time the immune system has encountered a new bacteria or the virus, which is slow. Okay, it takes time for the immune response to actually fight against a microorganism. The second one is called as the anamnestic. If the second time if the same infection attacks to our body, the intensity of our immune system will be very high and the time taken to destroy the organism will be quick, very fast, and it will be very intense. And these responses are carried out by 2 lymphocytes, B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. Correct? Now, so these are the different types of lymphoid organs. We have bone marrow, thymus, spleen, lymph nodes and malt. Bone marrow is a main lymphoid organ where all the blood cells are produced and including lymphocytes. So, there are granulocytes and agranulocytes, correct? To which category the lymphocytes belongs to? Agranulocytes. There are monocytes and lymphocytes, and monocytes are transformed into macrophages. Now, thymus is a gland located near the heart and beneath the sternum or the breastbone, which is quite large at the time of the birth, but keeps reducing in size with age, and by the time puberty is attained, it is reduced to very small size. So, is there any hormone produced by the thymus? What is the hormone produced by thymus? You learn in first PO. They call it the thymosins. So, these hormones, they are responsible for the maturation of the lymphocytes, because of which thymus is called as the training school of the lymphocytes, because that is where they mature and attain the ability to fight against the microorganisms. And next one we have the spleen in the left abdominal cavity just below the stomach, which is a bean shaped organ, mainly contain lymphocytes and the phagocytes. Acts as a filter of the blood by trapping the blood borne microorganisms, and also act as the largest reservoir of the what cells guys? Erythrocytes. And this is also called as the graveyard of RBC, correct? Because that is where the RBC are destroyed, I mean the aged RBC. Then we have the lymph nodes. They have 2 functions. One is they trap the microorganisms or the antigens, and also they help in the activation of the lymphocytes. And the last one we have the malt. This is nothing but the full form is mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, which is found in the respiratory tract, digestive tract and the urinary tract, including the pairs patches of the GIT. So, here it is simple nothing but the mass of lymphoid cells where they trap the microorganisms and they help in the activation and the maturation of the lymphocytes. MALT, that is mucosa associated lymphoid tissue, NALT, nasal associated lymphoid tissue. You know the tonsils that we have here, you heard about tonsils, right? Tonsils are also type of lymphoid tissue, and this MALT make up more than 50% of entire lymphoid tissue in the body. Now, you see guys, vaccination. Okay. So, next one is the types of immunity, the vaccination. See guys, there are two types of immunity, one is active, other one is passive. Active immunity is the one which is, let us say, sorry, what is active immunity? Anybody? What is the difference between active and passive immunity? Tell me by looking here. If an immunity transfer from mother to fetus, it is called as ready-made immunity. Active immunity is produced within the body itself, like antibodies production against a specific microorganism, it is called as the active. And the passive immunity is from mother to fetus or from mother's milk to the infant. The colostrum, what is colostrum? The milk produced in the initial stages after parturition, which contains a specific antibody is called as the IgA, that is called as the passive immunity. And the immunization or the vaccination, the main principle of immunization is memory, and there are two types you see, active and passive. Active immunization is where the preparations of antigenic proteins of pathogen introduced into the body. So, we can use the antigen of a microorganism which causes infection. We can deactivate that antigen and given it as a vaccine, where our immune system gets activated against antigen and keeps it as a memory. And second one is passive, where we can directly inject the antibodies against a specific antigen, that is called as the passive. You see here, generally the antibodies produced in the host body against antigen will neutralize the pathogenic agents during actual infection. So, antibodies produced in the host, they can bind with the antigen and deactivates it. The vaccines have the same function. The vaccines also generate two types, the B cells and T cells, and these cells they can memorize, they can recognize the pathogen quickly on subsequent exposure. It is like simple guys. In a simple point I will explain. Let us say you are alone at home and someone knocked on the door, you immediately opened it saying someone is there, but unfortunately he was a thief. Next time you are alone again and someone knocks on the door, will you do the same, like directly open the door? No. What will you do? You will check who is that. Same thing happens in the vaccines. First time the immune system gets activated, okay, you will generally when you get vaccinated you will have slight fever, right, because your body is acting against the virus. Now it will keep it as a memory. It will take time to fight against that, but in the subsequent exposure to the same microorganism your body was already prepared. It will produce antibodies immediately and start fighting against it. That is the principle of the vaccination. Okay? Right. Now, next point here, allergies. So, sometimes our immune system overreacts. There is nothing but the exaggerated response of immune system causes allergy to certain antigens. And allergens are those which induce our immune system to overreact, such as pollens, the mites in the dust, animal fur or the animal dander. And the most common antibodies are produced against allergens is IgE, and the symptoms include sneezing, watery eyes, running nose, difficulty in breathing. and the two chemicals released in response to allergens, one is a histamine, other one is a serotonin produced by basophils. Diagnosis: patient exposed to or injected with very small doses of possible allergens and reactions studied. So, sometimes you may not know what actually caused the allergy. So, when you go for the treatment, doctors, based on the location, they will inject small doses of those possible and allergens. So, every allergen has a different reaction. So, based on that you will be treated. And the most common treatment include antihistamine, which acts against the histamine here, and also adrenaline, which increases the heartbeat and all those stuff, and steroids, which quickly reduce the symptoms of allergy. Treatment: what are those chemicals, guys? One is antihistamine, adrenaline, steroids. Clear? Now, okay, so the modern day lifestyle is actually causing many allergies. For example, protected environment provided early in life has resulted in lowering of immunity, and the person is more sensitive to allergens. So, nowadays the children are playing inside, they are not going outside, not exposed to different kinds of allergens, and as they grow up they become more and more sensitive to these different kinds of chemicals. So, more and more children in metro cities of India suffer from allergies and asthma, and due to more sensitivity to the environment. Understood? Right? Now, so last topic here is the drug abuse. So, chemicals when taken for a purpose other than the medical use or in amounts frequency impairs one's physical, physiological or psychological functions and constitute the drug abuse. If any chemical taken other than the medicinal purpose and if it affects the physical, physiological functions of your body is called as the drug abuse. And we have many chemicals. Most of them are produced from the flowering plants and some from the fungi. So, these examples you see, we have cannabinoids, opioids, stimulants, hallucinogens and other drugs. For example, the first one, opioids. The receptors for the opioids are found in the central nervous system and the gastrointestinal tract, and these chemicals are produced from the latex of a poppy plant called as the Papaver somniferum, and this is the chemical structure of the morphines, and it is taken either as snorting or injections. Example, morphine, which is also called as the heroin, smack or diacetyl morphine. I mean, acetylation of morphine produces a chemical called as heroin. That is why it is called as the diacetyl morphine. Action. These are generally morphine is used as a sedative to reduce the pain, but this is used in the patients who undergone surgeries to help them to tolerate the pain, but this can be used as depressants and slows down the body functions. It is odorless, white in color, bitter, crystalline compound, right? And then the second one, cannabinoids. The main receptors present of cannabinoids are in the brain, and it is produced from the inflorescence, the flower tops, leaves and resin of a cannabis plant called as the cannabis sativa, and it is taken as inhalation or oral ingestion, and this is the chemical structure, which can also be called as charas, hashish, ganja and marijuana. It affects the cardiovascular system of our body, and these days cannabinoids are formatting also being abused by some sports person to increase their athletic ability. Now, coming to the stimulants produced from the coca plant known as Erythroxylum coca, native of South America, and the stimulants have the receptors in the CNS, which is taken as snorting, which is called as the cocaine, coca, alkaloids are commonly called as the coke or the crack. Now, how does it work? It interferes with the transmission of a a neurotransmitter called as the dopamine. Dopamine is called as a happy chemical. Okay? So, it keeps the dopamine continuously activating the neurons, where you feel more and more happy, right? You see what happens. It is a potent stimulating action on the CNS, producing a sense of euphoria and also increased energy. Euphoria means extremely happy, you forget everything around it. And excessive dosage may cause hallucination. What is hallucination? Imagining things that are not there actually. The different types of hallucinations, imaginary hallucinations, even the sound hallucinations, right? All these things will occur when you take too much or too excessive quantities. Now, coming to the next one, hallucinogens produced from atropa belladonna and the datura, and they have been used for hundreds of years in folk medicine, religious ceremonies and rituals all over the globe. Now, we have some synthetic drugs which are called as the barbiturates, benzodiazepines and amphetamines, which help the patients to cope with the mental illness like depression and insomnia. What is insomnia? What is insomnia? Lack of sleep, which is generally used to treat those diseases, but now people are abusing those drugs. Okay, this is about them. Now, next one. Okay, so here drugs and the sports persons. So, sports person abuse drugs to increase their ability to perform, or you can call them performance enhancing drugs. They increase the muscle strength and the bulk or the mass of the muscles. They promote aggressiveness and enhance athletic performance. But the commonly used drugs include narcotic analgesics, diuretics, anabolic steroids and certain hormones. If you use more than necessary, it will have the side effects like increased aggressiveness, too much anger, mood swings and also depression. In some people, it causes stunted growth because of premature closure of growth centers of the long bones. Let us say if the person is still in the teenage and if he abuses these drugs, the bones will stop growing and also causes severe facial and body acne. Coming to in males, it will cause breast enlargement because they are using the drugs which are certain hormones like testosterone, and decreased sperm production. Next, reduction in the size of the testicles, they might become infertile. Acne, premature baldness, enlargement of the prostate gland, potential for liver and kidney function. In females, excessive drug usage causes masculinization, which means they will develop features like males. Abnormal menstrual cycles because of abnormal levels of the hormones in the body, enlargement of clitoris, excessive hair growth on the face and body and deepening of the voice. As you can see here, the effects are reverse here. Males develop breasts, females develop clitoris. Male lose the hair, female develop the hair, right. So, if you play with the balance of the hormones, this is what happens to our bodies. Clear? Everyone? Right. Now, there is tobacco smoke, paves the way for the hard drugs. So, the tobacco can be smoked, chewed or snuff. The chemical substance present in the smoke or cigarettes is the nicotine, which is an alkaloid. Action of nicotine is stimulating the adrenal gland to release adrenaline and noradrenaline into the blood circulation, which will increase the heartbeat. Okay? They actually increase the number of action potentials produced by the SA node in the heart. The effect of smoking or the tobacco in the blood it increases the carbon monoxide in the blood and reduces concentration of the heme bound oxygen. Generally, the oxygen binds to the heme of the hemoglobin. That is how the oxygen is transported. But as the person smokes a lot, the carbon dioxide builds up in the blood, which will bind with the heme, so that the oxygen cannot bind to the heme. People who smoke a lot, they feel difficulty in breathing because almost more than 10% of their hemoglobin is bound with the carbon monoxide. And one of the most common symptoms of smoking is called emphysema, which you will learn in first PU. Emphysema causes or decreases the respiratory surface area of the lungs. Other than that, you see, it causes bronchitis, inflammation of the bronchi, or asthma, emphysema, coronary heart disease, which blocks the blood vessels supplying the blood to the heart muscles, gastric ulcers, and the risk of cancers include oral cavity cancer, throat cancer, lungs, and even urinary bladder. Now, tobacco has been used by humans for more than 100 years, but as nowadays the effects are more nowadays. Now, coming to this one here, adolescence, drug, alcohol abuse. Okay. Adolescence means both a period and a process during which a child matures in terms of attitudes, beliefs for effective participation in the society. I mean, this is a time or the period where the brain thinking capacity increases and they want to mingle with the society. But adolescence is like a bridge linking the childhood to the adulthood, a transition happening from the child to adult. And this is a period between the 12 to 18 years of age, you can say teenage age, 12 to 18 years of age, a vulnerable phase of mental and psychological development of an individual. It is accompanied by several biological and behavioral changes. Women go through menstrual cycles, men go through the development of muscles, facial hair and everything. And it also increases the curiosity, need for adventure, excitement and experimentation, which motivate the youngsters towards the drug and alcohol abuse. As the curiosity, the experimentation, that is when they start doing it. And this is the initial stage. If you start smoking or drinking, it paves the way for the drug abuse, and if it is available, right. Now, first use may be out of curiosity, but later it will be used to escape from stress, pressure to excel in academics, perception which considered as cool, and sometimes they think that smoking is like cool. People consider it as a good habit, but it is not. Then even the television, movies, newspapers, internet promote this perception. It is changing nowadays, not many people are smoking actually. Now, unstable and unsupportive family structures also cause this. Peer pressure, friends also promote drug and alcohol abuse. Okay? So, you should be avoiding that kind of company who will ask you to smoke or drink is better. Now, these are things which can be followed to reduce these things or stop these things. What are those things, guys? Addiction. So, because of the benefits, drugs are frequently used repeatedly, that leads to psychological attachment to certain effects. So, by smoking or taking a drug give you some kind of happiness and you want to continue that because you want to more and more happy. So, that causes addiction. And dependence means you cannot live without it, you want it more and more. So, what happens is initially one cigarette or one cigarette is enough for you, but slowly as the days goes by you want to have more and more, and the cells, they want more because initially small amount of nicotine is enough to activate them, but as the days goes by more nicotine is required for those cells to become active. So, instead of smoking one, you increase 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe a packet. It goes like that. It is called as the dependence. You can see here the tolerance of receptors will increase. Now, what are the effects of drug and alcohol abuse? Reckless behavior, vandalism means destruction, violence, depression, fatigue and the drop in academic performance. warning signs. You can see those warning signs there, like absent from the schools or colleges, poor personal hygiene, withdrawals, symptoms and isolation. They want to be alone, aggressive and rebellious behavior, loss of interest in hobbies. Before they might be good in some activities, but now they lose it. Next, change in sleeping and eating habits, fluctuation in weight and hunger, and relationships will be become worse with family and friends. Now, high dosage may lead to coma and death due to respiratory failure, heart failure and cerebral hemorrhage. That is mostly caused by alcohol and drugs. And the chronic usage of drugs and alcohol damage nervous system and the liver, causing the liver damage called as the liver cirrhosis. And it also causes something called as the fatty liver or alcoholic fatty liver is there. And it also affects during pregnancy. If a woman smokes, drinks or uses drugs, it will affect the fetus as well. And some far-reaching implications, abuser may turn to stealing, because you may not have enough money to buy this. So, what do? You try to get the money by stealing. So, withdrawal symptoms include anxiety, nausea, shakiness and sweating. In severe cases, it can become life-threatening and the person needs a medical supervision. Okay? Now, the things here you can see simple points how to prevent them. Avoid friends' pressures. Education counseling is required. Looking for the friend's responsibility to look for the danger signs in your friend who is abusing drugs. And the last one is proper remedial steps to prevent these things by seeking professional help. Okay? So, these are the points that you need to study by yourself. Are we clear now, guys, everybody? I know it's a large chapter, it's a big chapter and can't justify in 1.5 hours. I hope you understand this one. Clear? Everybody? Now, we have 10 minutes time, just go through it once. Solve the questions there. Oh, your class is over? It's 10:40, right? Class time is? 10:40. Look at the timetable. 10:40 is the time. Go to the classrooms. You left them early, sir?
Yes. It's 10:30, sir.
10:40, sir.
It's 10:30, sir.
No, sir. Because Sumit sir will come late, right?
No, no, if you look at the routine, sir.
No, I changed it again.
Change it.
Because I know Sumit sir will come late, right? 10:40. Give them some work then, no problem.
It's fine, sir.
Hmm?
Fine, sir. They can-
No, Sumit sir will come at 10:50. I forgot that. Yeah, I've sent it.